put my pen? Okay, I'm doing some stuff. Don't need that. Don't need that. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so welcome to Understanding Ratios with a math teacher. Let's talk about ratios. What is a ratio? All a ratio is a comparison of two numbers. Let me say that again. That's it. Ratio, compare two numbers. That's it. That's all you gotta do. Don't laugh at me for not knowing how to spell comparison. Math teacher, not a language arts teacher. But anyways, that's all a ratio is a way to compare two numbers. I'll give you an example. For every 1 cup I have 11 pencils. That's it. That's just the way a ratio is. I'm just comparing how many cups I have to how many pencils I've got. That's it. There's nothing else about it. There are going to be other concepts later, but just stay with me for now. For now, let's talk about the two different ways that you can compare ratios. And that is a part to a part or a part to a whole ratio. A part to part ratio, what would that look like? Well, a part to part ratio would kind of like me be saying, for every 1 blue square that I've also got 1 yellow square. All I'm doing is I'm taking two parts of the same whole and comparing them. That's really about it. As for a part to whole ratio would be a lot more like if I said that for every 1 green square I've got 4 other squares. That's more of how a part to whole ratio would work. Another example could be that for every, what am I saying? Out of 10 complete set of pencils, 1 is not sharpened. I'm just comparing the whole of 10 pencils to the one that's not sharpened. So that's it, right? That's all you really need to know about ratios? Not quite. If you've been paying attention, you've noticed that I keep writing the time. It's not the time. It's not 1:04. Don't be ridiculous. That time doesn't exist. That exists, but it's not 1:40. It's a lot closer to 6 on my end. The other thing I haven't quite gone over yet is how can you write ratios? I mean, yeah, it's great that I can say that for every 10 students I've got 1 box of tissues. It's great that I can say that out of 10 pencils, 1 is not sharpened. But how am I going to write that on a piece of paper? It's going to take me all day if I write that sentence out. So let's figure out a couple different ways. Because there's actually 3. The 3 main ways you can write it is something I'd call word form. And that's where you just spell out 1 word in 3 pieces. Give you an example. Word form is really just spelling out the word to, T-O. That's it. There's nothing else I can say. If I'm comparing 10 pencils to 1 pencil, I could just write 10 to 1. That's it. That's all I really need in word form. The next form is something I'd like to call classic ratio form. Classic ratio just uses this symbol right here. It's a colon. All that colon means is it means 2. That's really about it. That's just how we in the language of math would communicate that we are comparing the number 10 to the number 1. That's really all that means. You don't really have to concern yourself about too much more than that. Let's move on to the last form. The last form is a form that many of you have been familiar with since, well, 2nd grade or earlier in some cases. It's called fraction form. So in fraction form, I'm still comparing 10 to 1, except now it's in a much more familiar way that we've been used to seeing for quite some time. There is a little catch though when you're writing in fraction form. You'll notice I have 10 over 1. I am not allowed to simplify this and just write 10. Because if I were to get rid of this 1 on the bottom, I'm no longer comparing a 10 to a 1. I'm simply stating that there is a 10. And that's not what a ratio is. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers. Getting rid of that 1 is removing that comparison and thus destroying the ratio. And that's not okay. In fact, let me make this a little bit more clear just so that way there is no misunderstanding here. In fraction form, Ratios cannot, I'll say it one more time just to make sure that you can hear me. A fraction, if you are writing a ratio in fraction form, you can't write it as a mixed number. You just can't. Do not simplify to that point. I cannot take 18 over 2 and turn it into 9. That's a no-no. You don't do that. It doesn't work. On the other hand, simplifying is still okay. In fact, it's kind of expected. If you say 18 to 2 and reduce it instead to 9 to 1, that is a perfectly acceptable ratio. That's something that not only is it a good thing, but that's expected. That's kind of what you're going to have to do. It's going to be a pain in the neck if you're constantly counting out 2 of everything and then 18 of everything. It's a lot easier just to count 1 and add 9 after that. It's way easier. Trust me on that. Oh, let's see, what else did I forget? Alright guys, this is my first video I've ever made. Don't know if I'm ever going to make any more. I don't even know if I'm going to finish editing this. Never edited a video before. Alright, I guess I gotta learn something. So, make sure you keep track of this video. Remember to come back to this if you ever need more help. Remembering what a ratio is, remembering what else you have to do. There'll be more videos about ratios and rates and proportions later on. But for now, this is Mr. A. Have a nice night.